This is me and my motorcycle. And this is Thomas and his motorcycle. We have decided to go on a road trip this spring. His Yamaha Tenere is in excellent condition. My old Cagiva, not so much. I have a long list of things I need to do. Can I manage to get it fixed in time to the trip? Is the camera running? Yeah. So, welcome to this episode where I will be trying to finish up the rear part of my Cagiva Elefant in this build series. You can come a bit closer. In the previous episode I finished up the wheel and a lot of stuff here, so today is the mounting day. First I want to fix the brakes. Closer. I have emptied the brake fluid and the caliper is prepared to be put on. And closer. You probably know very well how brakes works. It's a reservoir here with brake fluid and lines to the master cylinder or the pump connected here to the brake pedal. And then there are new lines and the caliper here with some pistons that are squeezed into the brakes when you press the brake here. So closer. And as you also probably know, the brake fluid wears out over time. Normally you can then just fill up new brake fluid and pump through the system, bleed it out the old fluid and replace it with new one. But what I have done here is I have rebuilt the caliper. Just taking it apart, lubricated all the stuff here and put it back together, cleaned it and painted it. I have now introduced air into the system. This is empty, the air into the lines. So what I need to do now is to refill with the brake fluid, make the brake fluid go all through the system and get out all the air through of course, this valve at the end. So that all the air bubbles exit. Yeah, this process of refilling with the brake fluid when you have introduced air into the system can be quite cumbersome. I've seen a lot of people struggling to get enough pressure because this pump doesn't really work when it's only air in the system. Compressing air, yeah, it just doesn't work the same as compressing hydraulic fluid, brake fluid. So what happens is that we'll just be pumping air back and forth instead of getting a flow through the system. So I have a couple of tricks. I have repaired a lot of brakes with all my old cars and motorcycles during my years. My first tips is just to be careful. So I'm putting a bucket under here now in case it's dripping brake fluid. Brake fluid is very edgy. It damages your clothes, it damages the paint. So yeah, I have some paper towel available at all times. So if you spill some drops, you can wipe it off quickly. To avoid brake fluid dripping out of my hose all the time, I added a bolt here. But I don't think it's much old brake fluid left in the system. I put a lot of towel around the cup here, in case I'm gonna spill something. And then I'm filling up with new fresh brake fluid. But I don't expect anything starting to drip right yet. So, now I have filled up the cup. It should start pouring out brake fluid through the hose, shouldn't it? No, it doesn't happen. Because the viscosity, it's like oily, slippery stuff. So it does, because of the air in the system, it doesn't go through. Nothing happens here. I can try carefully to pump the brake. If you pump too hard, then it might be backslash and it might start to pour over here. So you should be careful, maybe put on the cap on top there, but I can try carefully to pump the brake. No bubbling is happening over there, but it's actually dripping a bit when I'm pumping. That means what I should do now is to move this upwards. So the end of my hose is at the same level. Any air bubbles now should rise up eventually. And if I am able to pump and get brake fluid out here, it shouldn't be any air left if everything works perfectly. I can see actually it's bubbling there now. So the air now will start rising. I can even knock on this a bit, knock on the hoses to help air bubbles to rise to the top. Also, another tip is to always take a look at this reservoir. If you start pumping and things start to move and you forget to fill it, then you will start to drag air, of course, down into the system again. So of course, one problem now, I'm pumping here, trying to just get the juices flowing here. I'm just pumping the brake fluid down as long as it comes, and then I will transfer air back into the system. But doing this pumping, hopefully some air bubbles will eventually rise up. And now I can squeeze this hose actually. Here you can see me pressing on the hose, and I can also feel the hose is much tighter. So I think the lot of the air bubbles has now escaped. Not sure if you can see it on camera, but it's definitely coming here now. Then it's time to put on the caliper, but I used to do the same here. I will fill it up with brake fluid as much as I can before I put it on. And to do that, I have bought these tiny small bottles. They are so great. This kit cost me $7. You can find it on eBay and on Amazon. So what I do now, I just pour up some brake fluid into this tiny bottle. Oop. Oop, that's a bit much. Oops, yes. So remember, don't overfill it. And if you noticed, when I've been working on the bike, I haven't put on the rear wheel yet. Normally, maybe you do this job when the wheel is on the bike, and that's fine. You just need to be extra careful, not spilling brake fluid all over. So I've just been waiting to put on the wheel. One item less to be worried about. I'll just remove the valve to be easier to see fully. So now I'm gonna pour into here. Yeah, so I'm pouring down here, and I can actually see it's coming up here. So this is now the two top points of the caliper, and it should be fluids down here now. And I love working on these brake calipers because that's more or less the only time I am able to use my 11mm wrench. 11 millimeters are never used to anything except for these valves here. So now I'm closing this, and then I'm ready to put it on the bike. It's a tiny bit air here now, of course, but I can fill it up a bit more, yeah. At least it's not completely full of air. Doing this last part of the job without the gloves on because it's difficult as it is. Putting on the washer. So I'm doing everything now up here. So I get most of the system filled with brake fluid. There will always be a tiny bit of air here. What I can do now, of course, lower it a bit and open up and wait until I can see some brake fluid escaping here. I think I can see some moist here now. To my recollection, it's supposed to go on here. So far, so good. Then, next step is now to put on the wheel so I can install it all and do the final step. It does look nice, doesn't it? And if you're wondering what all the fuss is about, take a look at how it was before I started the job. As you can see, very rusted and not good looking at all. Time to clean the disc now, using some acetone for it. And I don't think I need this anymore now I have the wheels on. It's just for securing it so it's not gonna slide off. I'm using a Norwegian invention here, a Solo Super bottle. Maybe putting it like this, adding on here, just making sure this doesn't move. Yes. This job isn't too difficult to do alone, actually, because I'm using one hand here on the brakes and the other one on the valve. Of course, it helps to have a motorcycle lift table. Let me pump a couple of times and I'm holding the brake down and then I'm opening the valve. And when I open the valve, the brake fluid came out. Not any bubbles there. Typically, it will come some bubbles eventually. 1, 2, 3. And I open up. Yeah, there you can see some bubbles. 1, 2, 3. You can even hear the sound, the bubbling sound. One, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Just to take a look at the reservoir here, it's very unfortunate to empty it, because then you start dragging air into the system again. That is very, very, very unfortunate, and I have, of course, never done that. It's getting better, but still those tiny small air bubbles now and then. I refilled 2 times now this cup. And my hand, I had to put on a glove because my brake pedal is a bit sharp. It's getting really close now. I found a better technique. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So opening, keeping it open a bit longer and holding it for a longer time. It might seem like it has settled now. I have refilled 6 times the cup. I can't see any more bubbles, and the pedal feels very firm. Then carefully trying to remove the hose without spilling too much. Make sure this is properly sealed. Yep. I have filled up to maximum, and the brake fluid doesn't like air. So this is now supposed to press out the air, and then put on this one, and then this should go in like this. And then the rear brakes should be serviced. Here you can see how much brake fluid I flushed through the system. Approximately 1.5–2 deciliter, I would assume. But do the brakes work? Oh yes. This has to be a success. Excellent. One more job is done. But no time to celebrate. Now I need to take off again these parts that I have temporarily put on, because I have some more work to do in this area. The brakes here are just temporarily put on. Should be pretty easy to take it off again. The next job is actually to take a look at the exhaust pipe. You can see here it's very rusty. Is it called rusty or is it called rusted? Also, this piece is rusted. So yeah, I think I'll fix that. And is that really needed to do? No, but I need to replace the timing belts. And to get better access, this one has to go. Not only the timing belt, I have a bigger job as well. I have an oil seal also into the engine here. So that means, yeah, a lot of stuff is gonna happen in this area now. Removing the exhaust pipes can be a challenging thing to do on an old motorcycle, but I have to admit I have taken these off previously and cleaned up the bolts, so it's not that difficult. It should not be too difficult to get this out of here. Wow, it's actually sunny outside. Better hurry up getting my motorcycle done. So now I have grinded as good as I can. So it's time for my DIY sandblasting kit, which is nothing more than a box. Plastic box and a bucket of sand and a blasting gun. So let's see if this gets rid of the last rust. Okay, that did not go as planned. This was very brittle. Now at least I can see through this this plastic. Probably we'll have to upgrade this later. Not sure if you can see this, but the end result, pretty nice. I think my DIY sandblasting kits need a small upgrade. I have always had struggle with this lid. I can't see through it. So I have thought maybe I could just cut a hole in it and add a better plastic sheet that was more transparent. Yeah, my plan is to build some kind of better lid and have my welding gloves attached to it. So I have like a bit better solution than this, but surprisingly it works quite well. Just using a plastic box like this, at least if you do it outdoors, because you get a bit sand everywhere. It does work nice. This is the protective cover. I'll paint this in silver actually. These are the seals somehow, and this as well. Most of the finish was cleaned by the grinder, and then I just went over with the sandblaster where the rust was extremely bad. How am I gonna rust protect this? I have a couple of spray paints, but I'm not really sure if that will work out, because we have the problem with heat again. This exhaust, this part of the exhaust is gonna get extremely hot, and the hottest part of the whole motorcycle. I did buy a heat-resistant zinc spray, but it says maximum 400 degrees, and I'm afraid it will burn off pretty quickly. I have this heat-resisting spray, 650 degrees, but it doesn't really have any rust protective properties. I really would like some kind of coating here to protect it. I could of course zinc plate it, but you know, zinc doesn't have much more heat resistance than around 400 degrees Celsius. Nickel plating though, I think it has 1400 degrees, something like that. So that is very heat resistant. So I think what I need to do is start with nickel plating, but that will be for the next episode. So the rust removal for the exhaust pipes is at least in progress. But yeah, I need to set up my nickel plating and see if I can get it work. And it will probably be just this first part that I will be nickel plating on this one and the small parts. Yeah, maybe it's time to see where I am according to the plan. And I must say, it's very nice to see some progress, and I think this really starts to work out. So let me see here. Right side exhaust pipes rust treatment. It's not done, but at least it's in progress. So I'll mark it like this. And then I have some really nice checks to do here. Rear wheel tires, done. I also have here rear wheel brake fluid, done. Rear wheel service the brakes. Maybe that really could have been the same to-do job, but like replacing brake fluid, it feels like a separate job. And then service the brake can be just lubricate it, clean it, remove it, put it back on. So yeah, I think it's fair to have that as two separate jobs. It will be the same on the front wheel. I'll do service and replace brake fluid as well. Also, I have even new lines for the front. Wait a second. Wait a second. What I can see here. Big problem. Big problem. Wow, wow, wow. I have done a big mistake here.